All right, let's dive into Michelle Obama's becoming.
Yeah, great pick.
Her story, starting from her childhood on the south side of Chicago,
Yeah.
all the way to the White House. I mean, family, race, ambition, all those crazy moments.
A lot to unpack there.
Yeah, the whole thing. I was hooked right from the beginning. Her description of growing up on Euclid Avenue, the apartment,
Um,
close with her brother, Craig, her parents, her grandfather, Dandy.
Paints such a vivid picture, doesn't it?
It really does. It's like a time capsule of that specific time and place. And
And you can see how all of that, those early influences really shaped her. Her
yep.
father, Frazier, dealing with his health issues, but still working hard. Her mom,
Oh,
Marion,
so resourceful.
fiercely independent.
Encouraging Michelle's independence, too.
And then Dandy with his, well, maybe more critical and definitely practical view of everything.
Yeah, that contrast between her parents and Dandy really struck me. They're like two different ways of handling life's curveballs.
Right. It's like she took that handle it how you think best from her parents, but also struggled with Dandy's more cautious side.
You can tell she's always been comfortable doing her own thing, even as a kid. I mean, preferring dolls and blocks
Yeah.
over playing with the other kids.
There's a lot about her independence for sure, and that independent streak makes her story even more interesting when you think about how the neighborhood was changing, going from mostly white to mostly black during her childhood.
And that transition wasn't always easy. That story about Craig being wrongly accused of stealing his bike just shows the kind of prejudice they faced.
Oh, absolutely. It's such a powerful example of the racism that was just part of their daily life.
Makes you wonder how those experiences with racial injustice might have shaped her views later on, when it comes to fairness and equality.
Hard to imagine they wouldn't have had a huge impact.
Yeah.
It's like the foundation for her passion for social justice and advocating for those who are often overlooked.
As she gets older, she starts navigating all those tricky parts of friendships and social dynamics. The stuff with Dee Dee, for example, shows how hard it can be to understand different points of view and earn respect.
Yeah, even someone as confident as Michelle had to deal with those social hurdles. It's a reminder that we all go through that awkward phase of trying to fit in.
Totally. And throughout all of this, you have her mom's constant guidance. I love her practical approach, focus on learning from your teachers, even if you don't like them personally.
So grounded, right. It's all about pragmatism and resilience, qualities that helped Michelle throughout her life. Her parents really instilled that belief in her that you can overcome anything, even when people aren't on your side.
It's like they were preparing her for those bigger challenges she'd face later on, like when her college counselor tried to talk her out of applying to Princeton.
Seriously.
Yeah, can you believe that?
That's wild.
I know.
You can just feel her determination. She wasn't going to let anyone limit her dream. She believed in herself, even when others doubted her.
Those are the moments that define a person, right?
Yeah.
Trusting your gut and going against expectations.
Totally. It shows the kind of leader she'd become, someone who challenges the status quo and makes her own path.
And then, boom, off she goes to Princeton, this mostly white, mostly male Ivy League school in the 80s. I can only imagine the culture shock coming from South Shore.
She talks about feeling like she didn't belong, being surrounded by people who were so different.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that even the most successful people can feel isolated and need to find their people.
It's so important to find those spaces where you feel seen and understood, especially when you're in a new and unfamiliar place.
Absolutely. Those connections can change your life.
Yeah.
They give you support, validation, and that feeling of belonging that helps you thrive. And amidst all this, Michelle's also forging her own path academically, pushing herself intellectually,
That's right.
honing those critical thinking skills.
She even accidentally ends up in a 300-level theology class as a freshman.
Oh.
I can just picture her in that class like, wait, what?
I know, it shows how willing she was to embrace challenges and get outside her comfort zone.
But here's where things get really interesting for me. Her career aspirations start shifting away from that typical law firm path.
Yeah.
She's craving work with a bigger purpose. Do you think her experiences with social injustice played a role in that?
Definitely possible. It's like she's trying to turn her personal experiences into something that can make a difference for everyone. She wants work that aligns with her values.
And right as she's going through all of this personal and professional growth, enter Barack Obama.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about a turning point. They're meeting at Sidley and Austin, the law firm, where she was assigned to be his mentor. It's like something out of a movie.
Totally.
And she wasn't exactly blown away by him at first. He was late, that white linen blazer.
Oh, that blazer.
I think she was more amused than impressed.
But you know what they say? First impressions aren't everything.
Right.
They start connecting through work, then long phone calls, trying to navigate this new romance while they're both super busy.
And she was living at home with her parents at the time, which shows how practical she is.
Right.
This rising star lawyer choosing practicality over appearances.
It's a good reminder that even people destined for greatness have to deal with the same everyday stuff as the rest of us.
Yeah.
She wasn't afraid to make choices that helped her reach her goals and support her family, even if they didn't fit the typical picture of success.
And at the same time, she's wrestling with this internal conflict, wanting a job that feels virtuous, but also needing to meet her financial obligations.
That's such a relatable struggle, trying to balance a fulfilling career with the realities of life.
And then you have her father's declining health, his reluctance to see a doctor. It adds this whole other layer to her life, facing mortality and the fragility of family.
It's a reminder that life can throw you curveballs even when you're chasing your dreams. It's about finding a way to navigate those challenges while staying true to yourself.
Exactly.
So Michelle's move to City Hall, it wasn't just a career change.
No, it was definitely more than that.
It shows how her values were evolving.
Right, you can tell she's excited about working in a place that felt like it truly belonged to the people.
Such a contrast from those big corporate law firms.
And even with this big shift, her dedication to family never wavered. Remember how she insisted on introducing Barack to Valerie Jarrett before taking the job at City Hall?
Oh, yeah, that's a great point.
Like she wanted Valerie's take on him, almost like a second opinion.
Exactly. Shows how much she valued their partnership and trusted Valerie's judgment.
She wanted to make sure any decision was good for both of them. But we can't forget, she also talks about struggling with the bar exam around this time.
It's kind of humbling to hear, right? Even someone like Michelle Obama faces setbacks.
It shows that success isn't always a straight line, and even the most driven people have moments of doubt.
She talks about feeling burned out from law school, preferring to solve real-world problems
Makes sense.
instead of getting lost in legal theories.
And then, of course, there's that hilarious story about Barack's proposal.
Oh, I love that part.
The night he finishes the bar exam, at their favorite restaurant,
You'd think he'd be celebrating.
and then he questions the whole point of marriage.
Classic Barack.
Classic Barack, right?
It perfectly captures their different personalities.
Yeah.
Michelle needs structure, routine.
And Barack's comfortable with uncertainty.
He could live in the ocean. I needed the boat.
I love that analogy.
Really sums them up.
Sums up their whole dynamic. And as they're figuring out those early years of marriage, Barack's political ambitions start taking center stage. What do you think about Michelle's initial reaction to that whole thing?
It's understandable that she'd be hesitant. She wanted stability, a normal life for their family.
Especially with young kids.
Stepping into politics means giving up a lot of privacy.
And control.
She's honest about those reservations, but she also sees Barack's potential, his ability to inspire and connect with people.
She saw a leader who could really make a difference.
There's this sense that she's weighing the personal sacrifices against the potential for positive change.
It's a tough decision a lot of couples face, balancing ambition and family life.
Absolutely. And then in 2004, Barack wins the Illinois Senate race by a landslide. It's a huge moment. He's on the national stage, and their family's in the spotlight.
Talk about a whirlwind.
Do you think she was ready for that level of scrutiny?
It's hard to imagine being prepared for that kind of overnight fame.
She talks about getting a call from a senator's wife while she's at Chipotle after shopping at Baby Gap.
It's funny.
But it shows how quickly their lives changed.
It's those relatable moments that make her story so compelling. She's dealing with a high-profile career and the everyday stuff of being a mom.
Right. She's not just a political figure. She's a working mom trying to figure it all out. And then, of course, the question of a presidential run starts looming.
I bet that was a mix of emotions.
She talks about feeling both excited and terrified,
Making history.
but also potentially turning their lives upside down.
It shows how strong their partnership is, that they could navigate those decisions together.
She talks about the importance of communication, making sure they were on the same page.
Even with all that pressure.
And she never shied away from sharing her own thoughts, even when they differed from Barack's. Remember how she pushed back on him running for president too soon? It shows her strength, her willingness to speak up for what she believed was best for their family.
She was an equal partner in those choices, not just a supportive spouse.
And when it was time for Barack to announce his candidacy, she was right there with him, focused on keeping their daughters grounded amidst all the craziness.
You can really feel her pride in those moments.
It's a powerful image, a family united, embarking on this historic journey. But as she's supporting Barack's ambition, she's also figuring out her own role in the public eye. That mom-in-chief label is an interesting one.
Yeah, it's loaded with expectations.
On one hand, It acknowledges the importance of motherhood.
But on the other hand, it can feel limiting, like that's all she is.
She was determined to keep working, pursuing her own goals, while embracing the responsibilities of being First Lady.
She challenged that idea that women have to choose between being a mom and having a successful career.
She became this role model, showing you can do both.
It's inspiring to see how she used her position to empower other women and challenge those old-fashioned norms.
It shows that even in the middle of a presidential campaign, she never lost sight of her own values.
Or her desire to make a difference.
And speaking of chaos, the campaign trail was nonstop. Travel, rallies, media appearances.
This sounds exhausting.
She's honest about the fatigue, the pressure to always be on, but also the excitement of connecting with people from all walks of life.
It seems like she thrived in that environment, using her charisma to connect with people on a personal level.
Sharing her own story, her struggles and triumphs, it made her message even more powerful.
And you can see her pragmatism in how she managed her crazy schedule, hiring Melissa Winter as her chief of staff.
To keep things running smoothly.
And then there's the decision to hire a personal chef, which caused a bit of controversy.
But it wasn't about being fancy, it was about recognizing her limits and needing support.
She couldn't do it all alone.
And she wasn't afraid to ask for help.
It's a good reminder that even people in powerful positions have vulnerabilities and need help to thrive.
And her support system wasn't just her inner circle. She talks about the sense of camaraderie among the campaign staff, the volunteers.
Many of them became like family.
They shared this sense of purpose, this belief in something bigger than themselves.
And all that work led to that unforgettable election night.
Michelle and Barack standing on that stage in Chicago, surrounded by cheering supporters.
Iconic.
It's a
And
powerful image.
she describes feeling calm amidst the chaos. Like the weight of the journey, the campaign, the historical significance, it all culminated in that moment of peaceful accomplishment.
And then there's that photo of them dancing at the inaugural ball, Michelle, in that stunning Jason Wu gown.
It's a beautiful image.
She says she was wiped out, but also full of energy.
Even with all the formality, you can see her connection, their love for each other.
It shows the strength of their partnership, a bond that's been tested and strengthened by everything they've been through. But as we know, the journey doesn't stop there. Walking into the White House, becoming the First Lady, it's a huge change, even for someone as down-to-earth as Michelle Obama.
You can say that again. I was really struck by how honest she was about that initial awkwardness, always being watched, the constant security.
A world most of us can't even imagine.
Right.
She talks about all the formality, how even something as simple as going for a walk or grabbing dinner became a logistical nightmare.
And through it all, her main focus was keeping things as normal as possible for Malia and Sasha. I love how they actually negotiated with the Secret Service to give their daughters some freedom.
It shows how committed they were to protecting their kids' childhood.
They wanted their daughters to have a normal life as much as possible, given the circumstances.
Right, and she also talks about the everyday struggles of balancing Barack's crazy job with family time, him always being late, missing dinners, bedtime getting pushed back.
It's so relatable, even in the context of the presidency.
Makes him seem human, right?
Definitely.
Even the first family deals with work-life balance.
And even with all the pressure of being First Lady, she still found moments of humor. That story about her and Malia trying to sneak out of the White House.
Oh, I love that part.
It's hilarious.
It's like, even in the most formal and restrictive place, you still need a little spontaneity.
A little rebellion.
Keeps you sane.
Exactly. And then there's the whole White House garden thing. Who knew a vegetable garden could become such a big deal?
It shows how Michelle connects with people in these unexpected ways.
It became a symbol of growth, nourishment, community.
A tangible way to show her commitment to healthy living, sustainability.
But then there's that, for the first time in my adult lifetime, I'm really proud of my country. Comment taken out of context, twisted to make her look unpatriotic.
It's frustrating, isn't it?
Totally. It shows how words can be manipulated. She talks about feeling judged unfairly, but she also shows incredible resilience.
She doesn't dwell on the negativity.
Right. She channels her energy into her work, quietly and methodically making progress on the issues she cares about.
She wasn't going to let those attacks stop her.
And she wasn't afraid to push back against the West Wing's cautiousness. She believed in joy, in celebration, even during tough times.
It's an interesting contrast, their different approaches.
It's like she brought a fresh perspective, a reminder that even in politics, there's still room for humanity.
She shows how important it is to stay true to yourself, even when there's pressure to conform.
She was going to make a difference, but on her own terms.
And then there's the Sandy Hook shooting. It clearly had a huge impact on her.
You can feel the emotion in her writing, the grief, the need for comfort,
It's a reminder that tragedy can affect anyone.
even the first family.
Her decision to attend Hadia Pendleton's funeral, that young girl killed by gun violence, it speaks volumes.
Especially after Hadiyah performed at one of the inaugural events.
Right. It shows how committed Michelle was to using her platform to address tough issues.
It must have been a hard decision, but it shows her empathy, her willingness to stand with those who are hurting.
It's leadership, using your position to shine a light on important issues, even when it's uncomfortable.
And throughout her time as First Lady, you see her dedication to mentoring, supporting young people, from her program at the White House to the Reach Higher initiative.
She believed in every young person's potential.
It didn't matter where they came from.
She wanted to create opportunities, empower them to reach their dreams.
And even with all the demands of being First Lady, she never forgot about family.
Those stories about sneaking out of the White House with Malia are priceless.
Little moments of normalcy, carving out time for family and fun.
They keep you grounded.
As their time in the White House ended, she reflects on the challenges Barack faced, the constant opposition.
From the Republican Party.
But she also talks about his optimism, his focus on getting things done.
Leadership means being resilient, pushing through even when it's tough.
And having a strong support system, which she definitely had.
Her family, friends, staff.
She calls them her personal gospel choir.
It shows the power of community, surrounding yourself with people who lift you up.
In the end, she leaves us with this message of hope and resilience. The world is as it is, she says, but we have to stay strong and keep pushing for progress.
It's a reminder that even with all the uncertainty, we can choose to work towards a better future.
Michelle Obama's story is so powerful. It's about finding your voice, being yourself, using your platform to make a real difference.
It's been amazing exploring her book with you. What are your biggest takeaways?
What really resonated with you?
And how might her story inspire you to embrace your own journey, step into your own power, make a positive impact?
Those are great questions to think about.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.